Yes, the man in the back of the room. Good?
Go ahead.
All right. Good morning. Sounds like we're good. We're going to get going. This talk is classic cons in crypto. We're going to be looking a lot at cryptography and cryptocurrency, which is mostly him. We're going to be talking about some of those classic confidence games we've seen forever and how they're playing out with this newer technology.
Hi, I'm Zach Sarakun. I'm a security analyst at CBI.
Yeah, and so I'm Wolf Goerlich, also at CBI and on the Twitters and on the YouTubes. Where this talk came out of is Zach and I will get coffee in the morning and Zach's like, this is the new great thing that's going on in cryptocurrency. I'm like, that's great. How many wallets were stolen? He's like, okay, fine. I'm like, oh, by the way, Venezuela is going to run on cryptocurrency. They're going to spend more power on the entire cryptocurrency thing than energy. I'm like, that's great. So what's your Bitcoin trending right now? And it was also funny every day. It's like, my Bitcoin's up, my Bitcoin's down, my Bitcoin's up, my Bitcoin's down, right? So we had a lot of these things going on. And it occurred to me that with this new technology, we're making a lot of the same mistakes we made forever and a day, which is, of course, the old man in me coming out. And we're falling prey to some of the same confidence games that we've seen repeated over and over and over again. And so while the entire cryptocurrency world focuses in on solving the 51% attack, someone over here is like, yeah, but I fished and got your keys. Haha, now I got 10 Bitcoin. So it's craziness. So that's some of the things we're going to explore today, and that's some of the things we're going to talk about. So the way it's going to work is we're going to break out some fundamental concepts of cryptocurrency and blockchain and off-chain and on-chain and near-chain and I don't know how many chains, far chains and one or two chains. And then we'll go ahead, talk about some of the pros and cons that we're seeing, and then we'll talk about some of the classic cons in that space.
Yeah. So what is blockchain besides a fire buzzword? No one really seems to agree on this. Wolf will kind of touch on that soon. So if you Google blockchain right now, you'll see Google calls it a digital ledger in which transactions made in Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency are recorded chronologically and publicly. But already there's like a ton of problems with this definition because blockchains are not limited to just cryptocurrencies. And not all blockchains are recorded publicly. There are blockchains like Monero, for example, that you can't go publicly view those transactions. You might be able to verify them, but you can't view them. So that leads us to the question, should we think of it as a technology or a design pattern? There's no blockchain version numbers. There's no blockchain IEEE. There's no awful blockchain certification exams yet. Hopefully.
No, this is great.
I will not go get...
If anyone knows CompTIA and can put me in touch with them, CompTIA Blockchain Plus.
I am not getting my Blockchain Plus. I'm not.
Am I right? Like Cal Plus, Blockchain Plus, it's the new house thing, man.
Hopefully
you got a quarter, get the cert.
So let's say, because of those reasons, I'd invite you to think of it as a design pattern. So a blockchain is essentially a construct wherein a cryptographically authentic record of events is distributed amongst participants in a network and permanently updated once a majority consensus of nodes ratifies the entry. This design pattern could be tweaked and applied to solving many different challenges, but it has its real-world origins powering cryptocurrencies. It was originally invented with Bitcoin. So some of the use cases for Bitcoin are cryptocurrencies, of course, which is the primary use case for this presentation. Distributed cloud storage, such as storage.io. So distributed cloud storage is, think of like Google Drive, only decentralized. So everyone holds encrypted portions of a file. No one person holds the whole file. And then it's redundant because you can't trust everyone to hold on your files. And then when you pull that back up, and then when the user calls it, everyone serves up those files. You have decentralized DNS. Namecoin is a project that works on that, and then Ethereum's .eth domains are happening. You're seeing a similar gold rush right now, where everyone's buying up .eth domains, pets.eth and all of that all over. You can use blockchain for voting. You can follow your vote and verify that an election was legitimate. Agora and Follow My Votes are using that. Sierra Leone did use Agora in a public election, which is actually kind of interesting. And it was for about 70% of the votes that 70% of the votes that were counted were used collecting Agora. We have malware tech bugs. One of the best use cases is using military applications, like boring your enemy to death by telling them how it can solve all their problems. I've almost killed Wolf with that.
Hey, how's that project going? Let me tell you about blockchain. Can I get a status report? Have you heard about the good news of blockchain?
And then another use case, which we'll be talking about later, is smart contracts. So the Ethereum project was built for smart contracts, and then EOS, which is a ICO that I believe launches like today or tomorrow or something. So one of the most profitable use case so far.
Yeah, I'll cover that. We're going to get back to smart contracts, which is fun, but think about this for a minute, and this is the most exciting thing to me about blockchain. Are you a criminal who makes a living the good old hard-fashioned way, stealing people's information, right? Are you sad because when Anthem happened, it went from $200 a record to $10 a record? Doesn't that suck? Thank goodness for ransomware, right? We no longer have to steal people's information and sell it to some stranger. We can steal it and sell it back to them. This is fantastic. And fundamentally, like the only real use, I can't buy coffee with Bitcoin.
Really.
I can't pay my hotel. There's 1,000,001 things you can't do. But by God, we can do ransomware. And did you guys see the ransomware talk like yesterday? It's .NET. I know .NET. This is phenomenal. So it's really fundamentally, at the moment, being used primarily in the criminal space that I'm seeing. Obviously, there's a lot of great uses for it.
Sure.
But I think that's true why it's exciting, right? Crypto, anyone really know cryptography? I mean, I do a lot with cryptography. Anyone really know other than I click the right setting and don't use SSL anymore? No. So crypto's magic, which is fantastic.
Sure.
And the criminals are using it, right? Robinhood, all these like fundamental, like day-and-old criminals. So it's sexy. So you got magic, sexy money. It's fantastic. No wonder the kids love it.
So some of the concerns around blockchain today are the risk factors associated with them. So you have scalability issues. Scalability are transactions per second that it can, or transactions per day, whatever that it can handle. Transaction fees grow as blockchains get congested. You have key management. You have a lot of people coming to this space that have never dealt with private keys or held private keys before, have no idea how to manage them, etc. But the scariest of them all is the infamous theoretical 51% attack. And we can't even call this theoretical anymore. This actually happened to Bitcoin Gold, which is one of the forks off of Bitcoin. More about forks in a minute. And it happened about this week. So the network is market regulated and open. So if one entity was to have 51% of hash power, there's no central government, treasury, corporation, no Bitcoin CEO to stop them from doing what? The attackers can't just magically change the rules. If they were changing code, they wouldn't be running the same protocol. But they could reverse transactions the attacker sends while in control, prevent some or all transactions from gaining confirmations by not mining them, preventing some or all miners from mining any valid blocks. And then what we were seeing this week is early reports were showing some double spending. So I'll explain what double spending is in a little bit too. So let's do it. Let's crash Bitcoin. Let's 51% attack. Let's make all the money. The problem with this approach and why you should be worrying about the classic cons way more than you should be worrying about this is if you had the billions of dollars in equipment it took and the millions of dollars in electricity per day that it took to have 51% of that hash power, you might as well mine with it. It would be much more profitable rather than have a 51% attack, crash the price, and then not be able to do anything with what you've been stealing with the network you've destroyed. You might as well be mining. And then from a competition standpoint, as ASIC chips are getting better and better, it's getting easier and easier for Joe Schmoes to buy mining equipment and run it out of their basement garage.
And when we were talking about this last one, right, the billions of equipment and everything, we were like, who could possibly do that? Where'd it go? There it is. Billions of, who could possibly do that? Of course, we're thinking like Elon Musk, right? So can you imagine Elon Musk going, flamethrower, got it. SpaceX rocket, got it. I could crash Bitcoin. I mean, who's going to do that? It doesn't make any sense. So we, as an industry, Bitcoin and the blockchain folks spend a lot of time on that, but the reality is that's not necessarily what's going to happen. The reality is, at the moment, the second greatest use of the blockchain, beyond ransomware, stealing money from you, is marketing, stealing money from you, right? So we already heard conferences are better with blockchain. Everyone saw that in the opening. That's fantastic. You want to do cybersecurity, blockchain. Marketing now, blockchain with their ad platform. The future of stock trading. I used to do a lot of stock trading, and this is the one that I was almost like, that sounds so cool. Because the fixed protocol, if you guys have ever looked at it, is god-awful. If anyone wants to talk to me afterwards, I'm not going to do anything on camera about it, but the fixed protocol is clear text, and like there's only like one bit that's very easy to change to manipulate. But it's okay, we'll do it with blockchain. Blockchain makes everything better, even IBM. So, fundamentally, it's like, hello, how's it going? Have I told you the good news about blockchain? That magic elixir concept is so frustrating to me, because we talk about being hackers and information security. We're supposed to be a little bit brighter. We're supposed to be a little bit faster. We're supposed to be the nonconformists. We don't listen to the man unless the man gives us a really shiny white paper and tells us it's got blockchain. What the hell? So this concept of magic elixir goes all the way back to when people were going, hey, look, I've got the ingredients from this Native American tribe who've distilled it upon ages. Let me sell you this bottle. And yet again, we're still making these same mistakes hundreds of years later.
Sure, it's that classic preying off of misinformation. So, getting into the use cases, what is cryptocurrency besides magical internet money?
Sexy magical internet money.
Sexy magical internet money. So, think of a cryptocurrency as a protocol, instructions for moving and storing data. A cryptocurrency is a particular protocol where encryption is used to regulate data and verify the transfer of units. So, some people invest in gold, some people invest in silver. I'll take a pound, please. Bitcoin only exists digitally, and it can be broken up into almost infinite units. So, the smallest unit of a Bitcoin is 1 Satoshi, which is .zeros Bitcoin. I'm not going to name them all off. And that number could scale to be just based off that number. It could scale to be the main currency of the world if that were to ever happen. And then even if you needed more decimals, you could soft fork to add more if needed. More on soft forks later. Go ahead.
Yeah. So of course the other great use of this is crypto mining today's, right? So why steal your data and have you pay me a Bitcoin when I can just have you run my software and now we can mine Bitcoin right off of your computer? It's great. And in fact, we're starting to see more and more criminals switching to that model. The old drive-by days of doing advertising, oh, I'm going to trick you to click stuff, has now been replaced with I'm going to run CoinHive, a JavaScript, in your browser and run it forever and mine crypto. As well as some of the old attacks that used to break into data centers. I've got a good friend who runs a web hosting company, right, in the cloud, my other favorite buzzword, and was investigating because he noticed that the performance was starting to dip, and what he actually found out was a great swath of his machines were infected. They were compromised. There was holes in the web applications that were used to load up exploits. And in the old days, they would have broke in and defaced it and went, look how cool I am, or broke in and stolen data. Oh, look, I can sell it in the market. No, instead, they had broken into all these web servers and were mined to the tune of $1.6 million a month off of crypto miners throughout the environment. Craziness. So that's the other great use case today, crypto mining.
So some of the pros of cryptocurrency is you have a controlled supply. So you don't have the photocopying of money that we have problems with other currencies. You have decentralization, so no one person can mess it up by accident or intentional action. When a blockchain is running properly and you're not in some type of 51% attack scenario, you don't have a double spending problem. So Bitcoin is not the first cryptocurrency, but it solved the double spending problem. The double spending problem is the idea that if I have 1 Bitcoin and I give it to you, and I give it to you, and I give it to you, and I hurry up and spend those again and again and again before those transactions are valid, I've just spent that 3 times. And so it doesn't really work as a store of value or medium of exchange anymore at that point. And then, of course, you have authenticity backed by that blockchain. So there's no real such thing as a counterfeit Bitcoin. Some of the cons of it are that's what the price chart looks like on any given Tuesday morning. You have several wonderful cycles here where media starts to talk about it. People get super greedy. We have the new paradigm at the top. Everyone's talking about it. We don't need governments anymore. We don't need cash anymore. This is the whole new thing. We have a dip. People get a little shaky for a minute, and then we have the return back to normal, where everything is cool. We're good. We're gonna keep going up, and then we have this, and and I got crazy with MS Paint. It just kind of goes nuts. And so that's definitely hurts it as a store of value.
And I do too, by the way, love it when I'm talking to Zach in the morning. He's like, "This is the greatest day ever. Everything's great." And he's like, "I want to kill myself. Can I work here forever? Can I get a raise?" No, everything's good. And the media names these things crazy stuff too, right? Was it return to the beach, man trap, shark?
Oh, right, yeah. So this pattern we see here would be an inverse shark returning to the beach, and it's bullish.
Yeah, I used to work in the stock market, and it's the craziness that they say. Well, that's what we would have expected to see from the inverse shark attack.
Well, now what you have is a bunch of people my generation trying to do the same thing, without any of the institutional minds behind it. So we don't know what we're doing.
It's fun times.
Yeah. Fun times. So some of the cons around it are, of course, that price volatility. This is, as much as we'd love to believe that it's matured and it's great, it's still in a long valuation phase. We still have a long way to go before it's stable enough that people would actually trust it, not as a medium of exchange, but as a store of value. You have scalability issues. So every time networks get congested, transaction fees go through the roof. Transaction times take forever, which hurts it as the medium of exchange. There's no forgot password button on the protocol. So for a lot of people, because it's decentralized, there's no central entity to go convince that you're that person and that you deserve those keys, you deserve that wallet. So that makes it really difficult from a UX perspective for a lot of people.
And spoiler alert, we'll come back to that a few times.
Yeah, it's not at all widely accepted. No matter what believers of it will tell you about. There are some solutions like you can get a special debit card tied to a wallet so that you can use that anywhere, but you can't directly use that everywhere yet. And then a huge con about it is your spouse won't let you buy any. No matter how much you try to convince her that it's the future.
That's nice. It's the future.
He or she won't let you buy any.
She hasn't heard about blockchain. That's the problem.
Right.
So in this day and age of this decentralized currency, right, this sexy magic internet money, where no one bank will tell us what to do, I love the story of Mt. Gox. If you guys haven't heard the story of Mt. Gox, it all starts with Magic the Gathering, which used to cost about 1 Yoshi.
Satoshi.
Yeah, okay. 1 magic money. And so Magic the Gathering, they wanted to exchange cards online, and this came to Magic the Gathering online, Mt. Gox. So Mt. Gox actually started out as a trading platform for fake cards and then moved to a much more legitimate model of trading fake currency. And pretty soon they had about 3/4 of all the currency was flowing through Mt. Gox. Now, fundamentally my problem with so many of these technologies, basically every new technology, is I'm like, why? Why do we keep making these same mistakes? Why are we not patching? Why are we not putting in two-man principle? Why are we not using 2FA? Yada, yada, yada. Every single thing you hear everyone in this industry who's been around for a while complaining about. Why don't you use 2FA, Sonny, in my day? So that's the problem. And what ended up happening was Mt. Gox ran off with all the money. Now, it's never been proven. It's never been definitively found. If anyone says, yes, it has, please give me the link because I didn't find it.
They investigated for years.
Yeah, they investigated for years. But every indication shows it was insider threat, right? There was not good two-man controls. There's not good financial controls. And for how much we in the financial industry hate things like SOX and the SEC telling us what to do, the man telling us what to do, a little bit of control would have probably prevented a whole lot of cryptocurrency walking away.
Think about this from a conceptual standpoint. Inside of a model where decentralization is supposed to be the answer to everything here, you have one entity handling 70% of the transactions on the network. That's not decentralization at all. And it's a huge problem when we see it's not quite as bad, but we see similar things happening right now with Coinbase being as successful and easy to use as they are. So with that, we've mentioned it a couple times. Let's talk about mining. So mining, as the way mining works is you have doges in a cave. They take GPUs with them and they beat up math problems, and you get rewards for that. So
legitimately how to explain it to me.
On Bitcoin, the ways you make money mining is introducing new coins to the blockchain through solving complex mathematical. Never mind. It's more like Go Fish with random number guessing. You guess the correct number, you get a reward, and that is how new coins are added into the economy up to the 21 million coin limit. The other way that you make money mining, and this will be where we eventually shift to fully, is if I send a Bitcoin from me to Wolf, and again, this is theoretical because Wolf will never own it, is the people on the way from me to Wolf there that see that transaction, record it as valid, and add it to the blockchain are miners. They take a small fee from that transaction in order to cover their electricity overhead or whatnot. So anyone can mine with a modern computer, smartphone, etc. The question is profitability. Can you do this on top of your electricity costs?
And part of that too is as you mine more and more currency, the mathematical problems get harder and harder because they took into account Moore's law and other things. So the proof of work continues to get more difficult, so the amount of energy and computational cycles are increasing. So back in the day, when it first came out and I was mining a Bitcoin here or there, it was much easier. You could do it much quicker.
Right. And again, uses a ton of electricity. So with that, a lot of today's concerns around mining are a lot of these headlines that you see about the Earth will not be inhabitable if Bitcoin continues to increase. And it's kind of like telling a pregnant woman who is 3 months pregnant that ma'am, your baby is this big right now, and if it continues at the rate it's growing, in 10 years it's going to be the size of this room. It doesn't take statements like that don't take into account hardware getting more efficient, improvements in the technology, changes in algorithms, etc. So with that, let's talk about some of the systems that these work under. So where we have the big energy problems is in a proof of work system. Rewards are granted based on the amount of work completed. So what that looks like is when back in the day when Wolf used to take his trusty pickaxe down to the mine, he'd mine some gold. The gold that he has the gold that he's received there is the proof of his work. That's what he can show for the work that he put into mining that gold. So again, that's the energy use concerns. In a proof of stake system, rewards are granted based on amount of coins staked. In a escrow-like situation, it's more of like a passive income type deal. The economics behind it get kind of funny, so it's worth looking into and deciding for yourselves if you think that's the route that these currencies should go. So the Lightning Network on Bitcoin is uses a proof of stake system backed by the original proof of work blockchain. And more on that in a little bit. And then Ethereum's Casper is introducing proof of stake to Ethereum, and the eventual goal is to get Ethereum to 100% proof of stake. Go ahead.
Sure. So some classic cons. The classic printing money con, right, is Vister Lustig. Gotta love Vister Lustig. If you guys haven't seen this, check it out. The basic concept was very simple. He had a box, you put in paper, you cranked the box, out came a $100 bill. And he would, over time, work with the mark to convince them, hey, look, there's 100, maybe one a day, right? So now you're into $300, $400, and he's got this magic box. He says, look, I can no longer have this magic box. I'm going to ride off in the sunset, but I'm willing to sell it to you for only $3,000. And you start doing the math and go, okay, so if I print $1 a day, I'll be profitable, right? And pretty soon, it's like 30 days, I'm good. And so he sells the magic box and takes the money. Guy at home cranks the box, gets $100, good. Cranks the box, gets $100, good. Cranks the box, out comes paper. It was pre-staged with money, and after you would run it so many times, nothing but paper, and by that time, Victor was long gone. So, classic money box con. Classic con. Apparently, second one, apparently when I was mining back in the old days,
back in the day,
like gold rush, 18th century, with my trusty mule who I named Lucy. Lucy's a good name for a mule. So there's this con about salting the mines. Here's the way that worked. You would mine and mine and mine, get as much gold as you could. And eventually you tap out the vein, right? There's no more gold to be had. What are you going to do? You're now stuck with this property. So you take some of the gold you had and front load it into the beginning of the mine. So you take your mark in and go, hey, Zach, this is a gold mine. And I'm tired, I'm old, Lucy needs a home. I'm going to ride off in the sunset, but I will sell you this gold mine for the low price of 10,000 marks or whatever. And the person would be like, that's great, look at all this gold that's right here in the beginning, I'm going to be rich. And so they'd buy it, and again, forecasting in about a year, I'd make all my money back, and within a couple of days, they'd mine through the gold that I, the con artist, had left for them. So keeping in mind Victor Lustig's money box, keeping in mind salting the mines, I will now tell you about this great opportunity I have for you guys. For the low price of just a few pennies, I will sell you mining rights. Cryptocurrency mining is hard, it's complicated, trust me, you don't want to do it, but you can buy a mining right, and I'll give you this great plaque. It's got a little certificate, you own your stake, and for the next 5 years, as long as you have this mining right, you are welcome to all the Bitcoin that my mining farm mines out.
Hey, I did not consent to you posting a picture of my garage.
Yeah, you wish. And a lot of baby boomers, a lot of my friends who are my age and a little bit older are coming up to me going, yeah, I want to get in, and this friend of mine is trying to tell me that I can buy a mining right, and I get a certificate, and that's how mining works, right? Like, it's all over the place, right? So I heard that, immediately I'm thinking about gold and printing boxes, and we're using these same old confidence tricks again with this modern technology, and unfortunately people are falling for it because, you know, sexy magic internet money is hard.
Right.
It's very hard to do. So if we just had a mining stake, and also too, a lot of times we're like, hey, you want to split this money with us? Because they tell us to sell shares of our shares.
Yeah, it's that preying on misinformation over and over.
Absolutely.
So for the next thing, we'll be talking about going beyond that original blockchain to help with scalability issues. So like I mentioned earlier, scalability issues are, as they relate to blockchains, problems around transaction times, transaction fees, etc. So we're going to talk about forks and layer 2 solutions. So what I mentioned earlier was the Lightning Network, which is a proof-of-stake system that is a second layer solution to Bitcoin. So think of it like this: paper money was originally a layer 2 solution to scaling gold. When they first started using paper money, Wolf was extremely excited that he didn't have to go to the merchants anymore and shave gold off his bars. This was a lot more convenient for him. So it's a similar situation to what we have here. So the Lightning Network is a layer 2 off-chain solution. So it uses micropayment channels to scale that you open payment channels from node to node, and that allows the scalability, reducing the load on the main chain exponentially. It has I shouldn't call it onion-like. It's onion routing, just like Tor. For those of you who are familiar with that, transaction times are instant. You can look up YouTube videos or whatever on the testnet or the mainnet. Transaction times are ridiculously fast, and this aims and seems to enhance Bitcoin's utility as a medium for daily use. So it uses those payment channels to allow people to send transactions to each other without actually using the blockchain. So what this allows Bitcoin to become much more than just a store of wealth. It allows it to become a better medium of exchange. So now if a coffee place ever decides to accept it, when I buy a coffee, I don't have half of that cost being a transaction fee. It will scale much better for smaller micropayments.
Yeah, just one thing on that. The first time I heard about this, I'm like, I don't care what you young punks say. Layer 2 will always be data link. Am I right? Don't be making layer 2 shaved off gold. Go ahead.
So
data link.
Yes. Okay. All right. OSI model guy over here. So, so then we'll talk about another way that people try to scale blockchains, which are forks. So it's not nearly as complex of a concept as it sounds. Think of just like a programming fork. So if I've got these transactions or these blocks going in a line like this, and someone decides that at this block number, I want to decide to fork off of it and have a new list of transactions. That's all that happens. They decide to change the code. They have their own new miners, et cetera, et cetera. So a hard fork is ditching the old chain for a new chain with new rules. This old chain can continue if people are still mining blocks on that new chain. The difference between a hard fork and a soft fork is a soft fork is backwards compatible. And the way that you maintain eventually one chain is somebody will come out with a proposal, and SegWit is a good example of a proposal that happened on the Bitcoin Core chain, which is the main chain. And they say, I want to have X consensus by X number. So if you decide to vote for that, you vote with your hash power. And then when you reach that block number, if you have enough consensus, everyone switches over, and at that moment, everyone is using new code. SegWit was a great example of this. It increased the block size, helped with scalability a little bit, fixed a couple potential security vulnerabilities. But what's worth mentioning here is SegWit was interesting because it showed that people can agree on something in a decentralized manner, and that we can do code changes so that it potentially can survive into the future. So some of today's concerns around going beyond the blockchain is the concerns around not having the real coin anymore. So anytime Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, SegWit 2x, Bitcoin Unlimited, there's so many of them. Anytime one of those come around and start saying, hey, we're going to fork, and this is the new Bitcoin, and it's faster, and it's better, yada, yada, everyone freaks out, and there's a bunch of what we call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt going on. Everyone's panicking. And so when these forks happen, you have exchanges that crash. Coinbase is a perfect example. To those of us that own Bitcoin, we've probably all seen the sorry, can't handle your transaction. And we begin to cry as our retirement account begins to crash to nothing. So getting over the last one, Ethereum and Ethereum Classic is actually a great example of a successful hard fork. What happened is back in the day, Ethereum, which is now Ethereum Classic, had a smart contract on it, and more on that in a minute, that was hacked, and people decided, no, you can't just steal $150 million. We need a solution here. That was the solution they decided is hard forking to what we now know as ETH, Ethereum. So you can't have a Bitcoin crash if you don't have any exchanges online.
So hard forks, soft forks. Zach tells me that old hackers like me can still do hard forks. They have a bunch of medicine for that now. I'm not really sure I got that joke, but all right, a couple different things. Remember earlier we said you can't change your password, right? Because it's private key. And also, when I was talking about on the baby boomer side, cryptocurrency sounds harder, so we want to buy like mining rights. Similarly, we've got NiceHash, which is targeted more at the younger audience because cryptocurrency is harder. So download NiceHash. If you download NiceHash, it runs on your computer. It does mining when you're not paying attention, and it uploads all that mining computing back to NiceHash, where they conveniently hold your keys. What could possibly go wrong? So NiceHash,
pay you out, yeah. And then they hopefully pay you out.
And they hopefully pay you out. Yeah, you hopefully pay out. So NiceHash had all the private keys. Those private keys get stolen. 4,500 Bitcoin later, all those people have no way to get back because they have no way to prove that it was actually them in their computer.
Right. What's funny about this breach is the first time I read the headline, I'm like, whoa, $50 million worth of Bitcoin stolen. And the next day it was $64 million of Bitcoin stolen. I was like, whoa, did they get breached again? Oh, okay, that's just the price fluctuation.
But the key here is the private key, right? Private keys are critical. If you don't own your private keys, you don't actually have the money.
Right.
No matter who's doing mining, no matter what they're trying to tell you, if you don't have your private keys, you don't have it. Now, even if you have your private keys, doesn't necessarily mean you get to keep your Bitcoin. So a lot of times today with individuals who have their own keys, their own wallets, they set it up, They downloaded a wallet, installed it, and hopefully it wasn't some ransomware scam saying, we are now configuring your wallet. Well, it's encrypting all your files. We're hoping. They did all the right things, and now they've got a wallet. The challenge here is that historically, we have been terrible at private key management. Breach after breach I've investigated. Oh, well, it's okay, we got encrypted. Where's the keys? It was on the server that got infected. I'm like, right? We're terrible at this. Moreover, users click stuff. Moreover, people don't patch stuff. Moreover, developers make bad code choices. So there's been a number of wallets that have been stolen through phishing. There's been a number of wallets that have been stolen through drive-by downloads infecting your computer. Why, do CoinHive when I can simply steal your coins? That's been happening. And there's been a number of these wallets themselves that have been, had buffer overruns or whatnot that allow people in that network to steal each other's private keys and hence steal the money. So lots of people are using their wallets. But of course, fundamentally, back to what you keep talking about, the ups and downs, classic pump and dump. You probably come here thinking you're going to hear the tulip story, right? Back when I was a lad in Deutschland. No, Dutch, not Deutsch. But forever and a day, we've had this thing where everyone gets really excited, everyone buys stuff, and the people who are smart cash out. And we're seeing this again and again. So even if you are able to get your Bitcoin and not get it stolen, put it in your wallet and not get that stolen, we still have these crazy fluctuations. But of course, hopefully it'll get better, right? We're still in the early stages. I like your point about there's still volatility that will come out. But we need to start doing some fundamentals in the security space around protecting these exchanges and protecting the wallets themselves.
Yep. So next we're talking about smart contracts. So smart contracts is a fancy way of saying a decentralized application. So again, it's not a fancy proprietary technology, but think of it as a design pattern. The earliest examples we saw of smart contracts happening is on a given Bitcoin transaction, you have several fields. You have a to address, a from address, etc. You have a notes field as well. What people were doing is people were actually putting code in the notes fields of Bitcoin transactions. And then when certain transactions with certain code would post, it would trigger other code. So when specific events happen, the code can automatically disperse funds from one person to another, as well as a wealth of other actions. Because they're on a blockchain, they can run exactly as intended without third-party interface or downtime. So some of the pros around there is is in terms of the CIA triad, you have a whole lot of integrity there. You're backed by the full faith of the blockchain. You have tons of availability there. As these networks basically don't go down. A pro is code changes need a network consensus to implement, so no one person can go change the code on you. A con is code changes need a network consensus to implement. And what I'm getting at there is if someone finds a vulnerability in your code on your decentralized application, you don't have a good chance of being able to convince everyone to signal to change that code before an attacker can exploit it, given that you need that whole network consensus to implement that code. So again, that's the whole centralization versus decentralization. You have to be extremely careful in how you develop these applications. As I mentioned earlier, the Ethereum and Ethereum Classic hard fork is a perfect example of that. There was a smart contract, I believe it was called DAO, that was hacked a while ago, and that was a $150 million smart contract hack. The Ethereum protocol itself was not hacked, but they hacked the application because it had problems with it, stole all the money. So Ethereum forked to have a solution to that. Not necessarily a great solution though, as you're essentially changing money just because of vulnerability. So today's concerns around that are, what that would look like today is if I decide with Wolf that I want to bet 50 Ethereum that the Lions win the Super Bowl this year, Wolf says 50 Ethereum that they don't, we put that in some type of ideally decentralized escrow account. When the Lions don't win the Super Bowl, not that I'm assuming, but when they don't win the Super Bowl, Wolf would get paid out from that escrow account. And that would be a simple example of what you could use a smart contract for. The problem is where do we get that flag to see that the Super Bowl was won? Do we get it from ESPN? Do we get it from another news network? Centralization problems, right? Who's controlling that? Who's controlling that information, giving us that flag to determine that they won? Because if you're letting a a lawyer or something handle it, it might as well be an old system. So machines don't see things as black and white as we do. The concern here is we need to be extremely careful about how we develop these applications.
Instead of messing with the inputs of the AI, right? Confuse
Right.
the AI, screw
Yeah,
up the
AI
AI's
is
mind.
only as good as its inputs.
Yeah. So on the classic con side, A, I'm not betting you about the Super Bowl. But B, a couple things that were interesting. One was Confido. Anyone hear about Confido? Yeah, no? Okay, so Confido was this great startup, fantastic startup. So what he's talking about in these smart contracts requires an escrow, someone to do the escrow side and make sure that both sides have entered this agreement and that it pays out accurately. So Confido went and told everyone, hey, guess what? We're going to bring this new technology to place. We've got this awesome smart contract escrow. We've solved it. It's got blockchain and it's magic. And investors went, great, take my money. And they took all the money. And right as they were about to go to IPO, the Twitter accounts disappeared, the LinkedIn accounts of the founders disappeared, the web page disappeared, and surprisingly enough, the money disappeared. So classic exit scams that we've seen again and again and again. Similarly, Plexitcoin actually got a little bit further. Plexcoin was the next cryptocurrency, much better than Bitcoin because Plex sounds more impressive than Bit. And they were able to raise 15 million and trade it publicly before they closed their initial offerings and again cashed out and took it. Now this was a little bit more public. This was following the SEC rules. The SEC prosecuted and they actually went to jail. But the point remains that the controls around these companies, either investing in the company or doing live trades in the market, are very, very weak, and those are the types of things that are making criminals lots and lots of money, as opposed to a 51% attack.
Sure. So the question that's in the back of a lot of our heads is, what about quantum computing? So what button to press to keep it the blockchain? So today's concerns around quantum computing here is, of course, flaws in SHA-256, elliptic curve, digital signature algorithm, et cetera, would quickly lead to a compromise of the proof of work system that we use today. So what do you do in that scenario? In case of emergency, you could potentially hard fork to change an algorithm at the last minute. What that would mean is the entire infrastructure of hardware that is running right now on that old algorithm essentially becomes obsolete. That's obviously a big problem. The total hash rate of the Bitcoin network or whatever other network would drop very significantly. That's not necessarily impossible though, as such leaps and bounds have been made in ASIC hardware recently that a lot of mining companies are refreshing their hardware every 6 months anyway because it's becoming obsolete. However, in cryptography, these things don't generally happen overnight. I'm thinking of DES, MD5, SHA-1. What happened were weaknesses that were found that changed the effort it would take to do that. So what that would look like on Bitcoin is someone would say, I think with an X size warehouse and an X amount of capital, you could break Bitcoin. So what happens there is people begin to talk, just like SegWit happened. I see these problems. What can we do about it? The network would implement a code change to get there through hard fork or soft fork. It would definitely be possible through hard fork, maybe possible through soft fork. We haven't seen that yet. Not for sure there. But if it happened overnight, Bitcoin and everything we know about encryption is brought to its knees. But the question there is why, if you can bring encryption as we know it to its knees, why are you at all concerned with $130 billion? I think people would be using this to keep enemies from getting nukes, not worried about $130 billion worth of magical internet money. And again, algorithms can be updated. If the market demands higher security, in theory, Bitcoin can scale to meet that.
Well, yes. Unless you're Elon Musk. Again, I'm thinking about him on his throne of Teslas and the bones of his enemy. No, but if you think, jumping back, DES, MD5, SHA-1, we have learned a lot over the past few years, right? When you implement a protocol, you don't necessarily tie the encryption to it. We separate these, right? There's layers of abstraction. Why? Because we know as machines get faster, as technology changes, enter quantum computing or whatever you want, Moore's law is going to crush that encryption algorithm. So we've gotten really good at this decentralization, decoupling in many of our older protocols. But in the rush to implement the Bitcoin and the blockchain and whatnot, I fear that they haven't learned some of those old lessons.
Sure.
You know, the fact that you need to completely do a hard fork and reset it is very concerning to me. Because can you imagine the websites, right? We have broken SSL, PCI, DSS now says we need to upgrade. Great, what are we doing? We're going to hard fork the internet. It's going to start on Friday. We've got to get everyone to agree. So
everybody's flick the switch at the same time.
Yes, everyone flick the switch at the same time. Right? It's a little bit craziness. It's a little bit craziness. And I fear that we're forgetting some of the foundational lessons we've learned and building all this infrastructure as we rush forward with Bitcoin and its relatives. So, classic coins, classic cons, right? So, quantum computing, this was actually the conversation that really sparked this talk. Zach comes into my office. He's like, oh my God. So, quantum computing has got this thing called qubit. And qubit
is... Okay. Go ahead.
Are you sure it's not qubit?
It's qubit, but okay.
So, qubits are going to change everything. And the speed's going to come, and it's going to crush the algorithm, and we're going to be able to attack it. And I'm like, okay, yes, these things will probably happen. You know what's probably going to happen before then? Pyramid schemes. Right? Am I wrong? So, fundamentally, the interesting thing where are we on time?
Plenty of time. Go ahead.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Fundamentally, as our technology continues to evolve and adapt, we are cavemen, right? We still get the same instincts that survived and thrived very well when we're beating animals over a head with a stick and dragging them back. And then we discovered fire, and it was awesome. And if you say I was alive during that time. But my point is, we have these same instincts. And what that means is we have these same human exploits. These are fundamental human exploits that have been with us for 1,000 years. And as technology changes, yes, that new technology brings up all sorts of new things. We're in the cloud. Do you guys remember when we first moved to the cloud and all the security talks were like, do you know what's going to happen? Now that we're in the cloud, they're going to figure out cloud escapes. And people are going to come in and they're going to assault your cloud and your cloud's going to dissipate. And they're going to do VM escapes and do multi-tenancy attacks. You remember all those sort of things that we're all concerned about, like circa, 2010 to 2015? None of those happened today. Not really. No, what is it? We fire off exploit at some crappy code that some developer put up there in the SaaS.
Yeah.
Huh?
Someone clicked the link.
Or someone clicked the link.
Right.
We've got the same wetware that we're running on all this new technology, and therefore we make the same mistakes because we have the same human exploits. Cavemen are running the show, and whether it's Bitcoin or cloud or AI or whatever it is, first we've got to tackle those cavemen exploits, because if we don't, we're in a very bad spot.
Definitely.
And one of the earliest ones from the day when I was clubbing animals over the head, I'm like, hey, I will give you a piece of meat if you sell a piece of meat to someone else. Pyramid schemes. But no one's honest, right? No one's honest about these sort of things, unfortunately. Well, someone is.
As the best and most ethical Ponzi scheme to date is Ponzi Coin, the world's first legitimate Ponzi scheme. This was a real project that actually happened. If you want to look it up, you'll have to see it on the Wayback Machine, because for whatever reason they're not running anymore. Because money doesn't grow on trees unless you're Bitfinex. So
how does Ponzi Coin work?
So this is the white paper summary. Here's the creator at the top. Here's you when you buy in, and then here's your friend's college fund at the bottom. So 4 easy steps for Ponzi Coin.
4 easy steps for Ponzi Coin. I love this because it was so truthful. It was so honest. How do you make money with cryptocurrency? Well, step 1, you invest. If you're one of the first few investors in Ponzi Coin, man, you're at the top of that pyramid. You've got the full stack. Invest. Don't worry about it. Just buy it, buy it, buy it. And you'll get all the fancy cars you want.
Think about the Lambos. Next, shill it to everyone. Tell everyone all about it. Post it all over Reddit. Make a dedicated YouTube channel for it. Everyone's got to know. Everyone's going to buy it. Call your dog, your teacher, your boss, everybody.
I got a call from a good friend of mine in Europe. He's like, I've got this great investment for you. I'm like, what is this great investment? He's like, well, what's your risk tolerance? I said, just dropped 10 points since you called me. He goes, no, seriously, because if you give me $10,000, we're going to be on the ground floor. I'm like, only if you buy one of my Ponzi coins. And then he didn't want to continue on the conversation. I don't know why. Everyone is out there shilling right now, all this sort of stuff, be it mining contracts, whatever. So why not shill Ponzi coin?
Next, hold on for dear life to it. That's a misspelling in the community that a drunk guy was complaining about on Reddit. It was forever immortalized in memes, and now it's an acronym. Step 4, profit. Sell it out, buy pizza, drugs, Lambos, whatever you're going to do with it, and gains will be through the roof.
And it must have worked because it was on top of the world, and now you can only find it in the Internet Archive. So actually, maybe we should launch Ponzi Coin 2, CircleCityCon edition. No, but true story. Check this out. It's hilarious. It's one of the only honest ones we've seen.
Certainly the most ethical or moral.
Most ethical, yeah. You get what you got on the box, absolutely. And fundamentally, the takeaway, if nothing else, definitely check out cryptocurrency. Definitely check out blockchain. It really is cool stuff. But whatever the technology is, we've got to look at not only the cool, sexy attacks that we think might happen in the space, but those fundamental human attacks that have been happening ever since gold mines and tulip bulbs and my donkey named Lucy. We've got to do that and address these sort of human issues, because otherwise we're bringing these same human issues in and focusing on the wrong space. And when I talk to a lot of folks who are very deep in the cryptocurrency world and are really deep in building those worlds on technologies, they're not thinking about any of that. They're not thinking about any of that at all, which concerns me, because I think we're going to inherit, especially if we do voting off of it, power our houses off of it, everything else off of it, we're going to inherit a lot of these same problems. And by the time you're my age, you're going to be dealing with them left and right. So address those key security controls, lock them on in.
And then add blockchain.
That's all you got to do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Have you looked at any of the Bitcoin mixers and cleaning services in the darknet?
No, tell us more. Bitcoin mixers and cleaning services in the darknet.
Like, hey, I stole coins and needing to clean. So
Oh yeah,
there are sites.
because Bitcoin's only pseudo-anonymous because it's still publicly viewable. So there's some techniques to get them into new coins. That's
Like Monero, probably?
Yeah, Monero originally did recently overtake Bitcoin on the dark web.
So for people listening on the stream, because I know people go back and do this, the question was cryptocurrency on the dark web, because people are going to the dark web and saying, hey, how do I clean my currency? Because Bitcoin is not truly anonymous. Other currencies are focusing that way, like Monero, which is why Monero is really hot right now for crypto mining.
You also see Dash using user ransomware. That was talked about yesterday as well. Dash is a privacy coin as well. So.
Yeah, great question.
There doesn't seem to be a barrier to creating your own token.
Yes.
On something like Ethereum. So what are some of the common scams that people are perpetrating? Because I know every week it seems like there's a new token that took some.
Yeah.
So very little barrier into entry. Anyone can create a token. Anyone can create their own currency. So scams are seen around that.
It's all about that subjective theory of value. Something is only worth something as much as someone's willing to pay for it, right? So people have to be very careful and evaluate things before they decide that this is actually worth the fruits of my labor or whatever.
And it's also too back to coin pump and dump. It's a great currency.
Right.
We can get you in on the ground floor. Just give us $10,000. Sure. We'll do that right away. Yeah. All right, we up in time?
Yeah, we are running a couple minutes late, so yeah.
Very good. Thank you guys all for spending the morning with us.